Hi, and welcome to another one of our Lightcast webinars. I'm delighted to be joined yet again by my partner in these webinars, our Head of Global Research, Elena. Hi, Elena, good to see you.
Hi, Ben.
And today we're going to be talking about AI in the UK. And this is a series of events that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. And it ties into our global AI outlook report that Elena was really driving at a global level for us. So the series really it starts with today, which is, as you can see there, the webinar on the AI revolution and how it transforms the UK labour market. Then we're going to be moving into a customer role innovation group led by my colleagues Carrie and Will. We've got some more detail of that later on. We're then going to be doing some specific training sessions on how to search for AI skills and categorize them through our analyst platform with my colleagues Lester and Alex. We then obviously going to be celebrating, which we will be doing later on, our customer of the quarter. So we've got some good news to share there about some outstanding practice from one of our customers. And then towards the Christmas break, which is quickly coming up upon us, we'll be doing a summary of this. So my colleague Rob will be creating a wonderful blog, kind of rounding up the series and then the new report on AI and the future-ready workforce for people to review. So very exciting series of events today and in the next few weeks. So today's topic really is we're going to be exploring the demand for AI skills in the UK space, kind of understanding what's kind of happening in that space. How can it be harnessed to build that future-ready workforce? What are the growing trends? What are the growing declines? Where are the risks and opportunities? Which obviously, within a new government and a very skills-focused government, is going to be a key thing in the next few months and years as the skills strategy rolls on. So just a quick reminder for those of you that haven't been on a webinar before or don't know a great deal about Lightcast. Our mission as a company is to unlock new possibilities across the global labour market. And so we do that through operating within our educational communities, our central government and local government communities, and we also operate that through our talent and employer space. And throughout that, we bring all that expertise together to really hopefully start to inform lots of conversations and lots of change around how the world of work is evolving, how we can fit skills gaps, how we can support the development of curriculum and strategy, which is very, very exciting. One of my favourite topics to talk about, and I know Elena's as well. About our data, just to kind of go over, obviously we operate through structural LMI, so we get data from several countries, and that helps us really around that building block of understanding what's happening in the economy, what's come before, what our economists, people like Elena, think might happen or project will happen in the future. We overlay job postings data, so that's where we capture in millions of job adverts over every single year, looking at that kind of key hiring activity, skills demand, salary demand, so it starts to inform what's happening here and now and what could happen in the future. We also pull a lot of professional profile data across over 30 countries now globally, which again allows us to look at the supply versus demand conversation in quite a lot of detail. We deliver that data and insight through software. So, for example, our talent analyst platforms, Spotlight platforms, and then we also deliver it through data itself. So direct feeds through APIs, Snowflake, etc., dashboards, and then applied research, where Elena spends a good chunk of her time in terms of definitely one of our expert economists looking at data questions, data analysis, and providing reports to our different client and sector bases. And so I'm going to hand over to Elena now to talk about this exciting work that we've done around the AI skills outlook. So over to you, Elena.
Thank you, Ben. So we have published a few months ago the Lightcast Global AI Skills Outlook, which is an interactive webpage that you can find on our website, looking at how employer demand for artificial intelligence and in specific AI skills is changing in the labor market of 16 different countries, pretty much right across the world, including many of the European countries, UK, as well as the US, Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. We built this because we hear discussion about AI every day. AI is kind of like the buzzword of the moment, but there isn't much clarity about how AI is affecting the labor market, and even less so about what key stakeholders in the labor market can do about the changes that AI is bringing. And so, what we wanted to do was to provide some very practical insights, not just to inform the discussion around AI, but also in terms of next steps and how we can prepare for this transition. And the way we did this was by leveraging the job postings data that Ben mentioned earlier, and using our skills library, our skills taxonomy, which contains over 32,000 different skills that we've collected from the job postings data, to capture the specific words that employers use in relation to AI. And we found specifically over 250 skills that mention AI, that are related to AI. And we wanted to track them in different job postings to understand things such as how this has changed over time, as well as what kind of industries are being more affected, what kind of jobs, what's the impact on salaries. So what I'm going to do now is show a bit of the key findings specifically for the UK, and then if you're interested on any of the other countries, you can find them in on the webpage itself. Starting for the $1 million questions, what's happening in the labor market right now? How is AI impacting the labor market? And what we see is that when we look at the share of job postings mentioning AI in the UK since 2014, the demand for AI skills has tripled over this time period in between 2014 and 2022. The overall share of job postings mentioning AI is still quite small. We're talking just over 1 percentage point, and but what we're seeing is this has grown quite rapidly over the last decade. Which suggests that it is a new and emerging trend, and that is rapidly taking place in the labor market. Now, one could say, yes, but you're stopping at 2022, whereas here there is one more dot, which is 2023, and the dot is going down. Yes, that's true. What we're seeing there is that demand, especially for tech jobs, is cooling in the labor market overall. And therefore, what we are seeing is that there are just fewer job postings being advertised for roles related to tech and AI, whereas there are way more jobs for other sectors. And so this changes the pictures a little. However, we'll see later in the other slides that this doesn't necessarily mean that demand for AI is lower. What's interesting to see, though, is that this is obviously just a picture for the UK, but the UK is not the only country in the world that is facing this AI transition. And as part of this research, we've plotted 16 countries. We followed the AI trend in these 16 countries. And what we see is actually that the UK is a little bit farther behind a few other countries when it comes to demand for AI. We have Singapore up there with approximately 5% of job postings mentioning AI. This is quite an outlier, and it's particularly due to the nature of the Singapore economy, as well as the fact that it's a tech hub, a very urban area. So that makes it a little bit of a different kind of country compared to all the others. But even if we exclude Singapore, what we see is that countries like the US, Ireland, Spain all have a higher share of job postings requiring AI than the UK. So good growth in the UK, but in the wider context, there are countries that where this demand is growing even faster, and where the share of job postings requiring AI is even higher. This is a picture at the country level, but we know that countries are made of many different labor markets, and that each labor market is different and unique. So one of the things we did was to try and identify hotspots across the world in terms of metropolitan areas for high demand and high concentration of AI job postings. And here, what we see is that two UK cities, London and Reading, rank among the top 50 hotspots for AI demand among the countries that we've included in the study. They are not in the top 10. We have many of the US cities that are actually leading on this front, especially on the West Coast and East Coast. But definitely they're up there among the leading markets in AI across the world. So this gives a little bit of a picture of what's the trend in demand, where do we see it in the UK, and also compared to other countries. Then one of the key questions that we often get asked about AI is what are we talking about? What kind of skills are there that employers are requiring? And here we used our taxonomy to try and look at the demand for different types of AI related skills. This bubble again shows the picture for the UK, and the bigger the bubbles, the more demand. And what we see here is that employers specifically most often mention skills related to AI in general, but also machine learning. Whereas other aspects of AI, such as natural language processing, neural networks, generative AI, they're all mentioned, but not to the same extent as these two macro categories. And this kind of suggests to us that the way demand for AI is currently presents itself in the labor market is still at the high general level rather than into the specifics of different fields of AI. They're staying at the high level of the general machine learning and artificial intelligence. So these are the skills. And then the question is, yeah, but do all jobs need AI? Because, I mean, if you read the news, sometimes you get the feeling that every job could potentially be changed by AI. Actually, it's not like that. Certainly, we see the field of tech and IT as being one of the areas where demand for AI is highest. And what you see here is for the UK, the top five occupation or five of the key occupation where AI is often mentioned in job postings. For computer science, for computer scientists, pretty much 1 in 2 job postings in the UK in 2023 required AI-related skills. And then we see that AI demand is also often cited in jobs related to software developer, web developers, design, and cyber. So these are kind of like tech jobs where demand for AI is up there. And what we're seeing is not that it's high, it's just high, it's also rising. And so if we look at the purple bars compared to the blue bars, what we see is that in many cases the blue bars are higher, and only in the case of software developers, they're pretty much the same level. And this is important compared to what I said at the beginning, because even if we see the trend line going down when it comes to the overall frequency with which we see job postings for AI appear in the labor market, when we zoom in into the specific occupation that require AI, actually the demand for AI skills in these jobs is stable or growing. So you want to focus on the areas where there is demand. If you're thinking about training, you want to understand which are the occupations that require AI. And on that point, it isn't just about tech jobs anymore. This is not to say that every single job will be affected by AI, but what we are increasingly seeing, especially in relation to generative AI, so the most famous generative AI would be ChatGPT. We all know about it, but there are other tools that relate to generative AI. They are also quite often mentioned in a number of completely non-tech roles. For example, here what we see is that in 0.4, so very tiny number, but still quite relevant considering how fast these things are changing, 0.4% of technical sales rep require knowledge of ChatGPT, and 0.7% require knowledge of generative AI. We see request demand for generative AI and large language modeling, also for research and research associates. And I can attest from my own experience that we are integrating generative AI in the way that we conduct analysis, but also in roles related to marketing. For example, SEO specialists also start requiring and using generative AI, as well as product managers and writers. So it is a wider range of roles than just tech roles. And that is important because this suggests to us that AI is spreading in more parts of the labor market rather than just being a IT focus area. Then the other question that we often get asked or that we often ponder on is, okay, but what is the impact of AI on salaries? If I train in AI, does this give me an advantage in the labor market or not so much? And what we see here is that pretty much for all the occupations on the screen, having AI skills is associated with a higher advertised salary from employers. So if you take a financial manager's job postings that for financial managers that also require any AI related skill tend to command a salary that is almost 15K higher than job postings that don't have any mention of AI skills. So this is a positive because it tells us that people that are embracing AI are likely to find better opportunities in the labor market and leverage this opportunity because employers are willing to pay a premium for this kind of skills at the moment. So point 1 and 2, and I stop a moment before showing you more slides. AI is changing the way we work, but in the sense that it's changing tasks, not just destroying jobs, which is what we often hear as a headline. It's changing tasks both in tech and non-tech jobs. And workers with AI skills are likely to end up in jobs that are higher paid than same jobs without AI skills.
I think that just to come in there, Elena, I think that's fascinating because what it shows is that wider kind of filtration beyond tech now into other roles, which I think is fascinating. And certainly, I was doing some work the other day and looking at kind of the hot and cold skills demand that we see in the job market. And from October last year to October this year, the highest percentage growth of skill in demand is artificial intelligence and generative AI, but that's across all jobs, not just tech jobs. And so I find it fascinating, for our education clients. You mentioned the magical word, magical system, ChatGPT. That's a real positive and a real challenge in kind of equal measure. But we're starting to see a real demand, I think, across all sectors. And the efficiency piece, I think, before we move on to the next slide, I think that is so critical in that, like we've seen with the advent of the computer, like we saw with the advent of automation, it's not necessarily, like I said, the disruption in the labour market, as in the reduction of jobs, but it's the evolution of those jobs and the adaptability of those roles, which I think is becoming more and more critical, isn't it?
Yeah, you capture it really well. And it goes back to the point, it isn't about jobs being destroyed or jobs being created. There will be some new jobs, there will be some job destruction, but the vast majority of jobs will become more efficient because the task will be augmented by AI. So it's becoming an imperative for all of us to learn how to use these tools.
Absolutely.
And on that point, actually, the next slide I wanted to show you, it's about career opportunities and how AI could enable or will enable wider career pathways that we didn't see before. And what do I mean by that? We have a tool called Career Pathways that we use to map the skill similarities between different type of jobs, with the idea being that you can use a tool like this to understand what are occupations similar to the one that you're currently in, and this tool helps you identify the type of skills that you need to hop from one occupation to the other. Or if you're an employer, you can use this tool to understand you're trying to recruit for a specific role and you want to try to understand where to draw talent from. So you want to see what kind of occupation have a similar skill profile to the job that you're advertising. And what we're seeing is that some of the skills that are in between these gaps are skills that can be enabled by AI. So, for example, things like in this example, we are looking at e-commerce analyst on one end and SEO optimization specialist on the other end. Well, to jump from being an e-commerce analyst to becoming a SEO optimization specialist, you need a bunch of skills, among which there is keyword research, search engine optimization, as well as Google Analytics. And these skills can be enabled by AI. So that means that you no longer need to be a search engine optimization expert. AI can actually help you get there and answer some of your questions around this. As well, you don't need to be an expert around Google Analytics. Actually, we are seeing increasingly they're making it more user friendly, more less technical. And so this means that somebody that works as an e-commerce analyst can easily, much more easily than before, become a search engine optimization specialist. And this is an example from the US, but we're seeing there is a 10,000 or almost 11,000 salary increase associated to it, meaning that AI can open up a wide range of career pathways and opportunities that simply weren't available before. This is something that we analyze further in the report. This is obviously just one example, but we have 10 more examples that you can download from the page, where you can see the transition between different type of organization of occupations and what are the skills that can be enabled through AI. And on that point, trying to wrapping it up and bringing it all together in terms of what it all means. First point is around job augmentation, which was what Ben and I were just chatting about. AI isn't really here to currently replace 100% of a given job, but rather it is augmenting jobs, it's augmenting tasks. So your jobs stays the same, broadly the same in terms of the type of tasks that you're carrying out, but some of these tasks can be done through AI. And so in terms of planning for a future-ready workforce, this means learning how to embed AI in pretty much every roles to expect AI becoming a common normal part of most jobs. But this, and this is also an important component, again, AI will help us do some of the tasks in the jobs, but not all the tasks, which means once more that the importance of durable skills or soft skills or whatever you want to call them, the communication, the leadership, the management, the working with people, thinking critically, will become more important than ever because they will need them to complement the AI skills or the AI enabled skills. Then the second point is around career pathways. And what we were just talking about now, AI skills open up new career pathways, and therefore being able to identify AI skills can help people to progress in their careers. So that's good from an individual point of view. But it can also help employers tap into talent pools that perhaps weren't available before. And this is particularly important in areas where there are big skill shortages or talent shortages. And it also has implication for education providers because it helps rethink the type of career pathways opportunities that students have, and therefore the kind of training, especially upskilling and reskilling that they can offer to workers. And then last point, which is kind of like the point with which we started today, global competition. While demand for AI is growing across the world and including in the UK, the pace of this change is happening in different ways in different labor markets. And if the UK wants to be ahead of this change, wants to be a leader, maybe learning from other countries, learning from other cities that are hotspots in demand for AI, can provide useful insights about how to make sure that the UK is at the forefront of this change and innovation, but also that we prepare a workforce that is ready for the future. And so then if these are the three key takeaways, then the usual question I'm left with is the so what? How do we build a future ready workforce? And then Ben, chip in here because I'm curious to get your thoughts as well. But there's something for everyone in there, isn't it? There's some education providers play a super important role there, and so looking at ways in which we can embed AI skills in teaching can provide really valuable, as well as changing the way we offer training, because upskilling and reskilling obviously are very big components. Community leaders, and with that we mean our local authorities, mayoral combined authorities, other economic development agencies. AI has the potential to reshape and strengthen the economy of your local area. And so the question is, how can we embed strategies that can help us leverage AI so that the businesses in our areas have access to the skills they need, and the workers in the areas have access to the training they need in order to succeed, and that the two of them are matched with one another. And then, in a similar way, there are also implications for employers, because employers looking to build a future-ready workforce must integrate what they're doing now with AI. That will be the way forward. And they also need to be mindful of the opportunities AI can create in terms of career pathways, but also on the importance that durable and other skills have for workers.
I mean, I couldn't agree with what you said any more. Obviously, Elena, as we always agree on a lot of things. But I think the key thing for me for all three elements of the UK customer base there in the UK kind of PLC as it would be is treating AI as a handy new spanner if you're a mechanic, a new type of tool to be able to make your job more efficient, or a new muscle that needs kind of training, refining, and flexing. What I find fascinating across all those three threads, though, is a need, particularly while we're in a new government with a new skills focused strategy, is actually that need to think about that existing workforce and how do we make a more durable, not just the future workforce, as in young people and adults that are coming through university, but the existing workforce. How do we take those people and make them more durable, make them more resilient for the changes? Because and what it shows me is that it's not always big long programs of study. Sometimes it's very short, sharp programs, which we know is always difficult to fund and difficult, which is, I think, where community and leadership and employer voice comes in to generate demand for that. I thought the pathways one always fascinates me, because that report is such a good report, but it also then reminds people of all the percentage of skills that they've already got that are relevant to that role that they're going into. So it's not just about, oh, I need to go back to university, I need to do a 3-year degree or a 5-year degree, postgraduate qualification. It's, I've already got a good chunk of the skills that are required. And more often than not, those skills are, like you've said, communication, resilience, that kind of adaptability, the ingenuity side of it is really critical. And that's where I think AI will become such a big friend to the world of business, is that it does make things more efficient. It does make those decisions more efficient. It is easier to create curriculum, sign curriculum off using generative AI. So I think the future is very exciting, and very much, why we're always here at Lightcast and why we're always delighted to do these webinars, and we're here to help. Like Elena says, we have so much data across so many countries, and the level of granularity that we have specifically within the UK, that we've operated in for over a decade. We've got a wealth of data that kind of feeds into some of this. So I'm very excited I think, about the work that we can do in this space, Elena. So that's fantastic. I want to thank Elena for as always, amazing insight, and hopefully people will be very inspired by this, and we'll get lots of questions through the session. Just as we start to close the session off, though, and thank everyone for joining us, we will follow this on, like I mentioned at the start of this presentation. So the next thing is an innovation group for our existing client base. And Elena says we've got representatives from mayoral combined authorities, local government, the world of education in there. And that is going to be expertly led by my colleagues Carrie and Will from the HE and communities and government space. We're then going to do some specific training. So how can you recreate all this amazing data that Elena's just showed you? You know, a good chunk of this can be created in our analyst platform. And so my colleagues Lester and Alex will do a fantastic job of working through that. And then in talking to customers, we always kind of value the innovation and expertise. I'm delighted to announce the customer of the month for the UK, and it is the University of Huddersfield. Now, the University of Huddersfield are doing amazing things with our data, and they're doing amazing things internally, but they've created a student-facing Graduate Careers Explorer tool, which is absolutely fantastic. I know our data science team in Italy, Mauro and the team have put a lot of work into this, as have the University of Huddersfield themselves. It's a fantastic tool. I know it's generating a lot of interest on an international level, but it's pulling in a lot of what we've talked about today, Elena, how those qualifications at university level and postgraduate feed in from a skills-based perspective into jobs. So congratulations to the team at University of Huddersfield. Really delighted that you've got our customer of the quarter there. So pleased to celebrate that. Elena mentioned the AI Skills Outlook as a shameless plug for you to log on and look at this report yourself, but really worth going in. You can, like Elena says, look at different countries, kind of look at different kind of themes around that. Lots of volatility within that. You know, like I said, the UK is a little bit behind, but there's opportunities to improve that against the rest of the world as well. And then finally, just want to say thank you for joining us. And as always, please log on to the website if you've got any queries or questions, or if you're a customer, speak to your account representative. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Elena. Really insightful as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.